2024 is coming to an end, and I suggest we take a moment to reflect on all the most important events that have happened with this cursed digital circus over the past 12 months. We'll dive into the most significant and impactful moments, but first, let's talk a bit about the future of our circus. Will the first season completely wrap up the story of the amazing digital circus? Or can we hope for more of our favorite show? What's going to happen to our beloved characters in episode 9? You'll find all the answers in this video. After the pilot episode dropped, the indie animation world was turned upside down, reaching insane view counts for a single episode of an indie show. The Amazing Digital Circus is now the most popular and recognizable 3D show in YouTube's history. Even a year after its release, TADC is still huge among fans because of its concept and, above all, its execution. Every episode is like a gem that you want to watch over and over again. The show's success isn't just about YouTube views either. It's everything surrounding the digital circus. The show's merch, in particular, is a big deal. It drops not just with new episodes, but even between them, and it's been going strong. This only means the plush Pomni, Jax, Kane, and the rest of the characters are in demand, and the creators know it. But will TADC keep going forever, or at least for 2 to 3 seasons? Or will the first season's finale be our last goodbye to this show? Let's break it down. We can get a lot of answers from Gooseworx and her Tumblr. A fan once asked Goose, "Is there any chance at a Digital Circus Season 2, or is it a limited series?" Goose's answer? Pretty blunt. I don't really think there could be a Season 2. Gooseworx seems to feel that the first season will do a solid job of getting across the entire meaning of the digital circus, so she doesn't really see a need to stretch it into multiple seasons. And on top of that, she added to her previous post, "I'd like to expand on this and say Glitch is very accommodating to an artist's vision. Liam and I are lucky to be in a position where we can end our shows on our terms based on the stories we want to tell. The timing and place we end our shows are 100% our decisions. Murder Drones wasn't cancelled because of TADC. It ended because Liam felt like he was done with the story. Same goes for TADC. Sure, I could stretch the story out into 5 seasons of filler if I wanted, but I'd rather each episode have meaningful character development, not waste people's time with filler. Glitch lets us tell the stories we want to tell, and I think that's cool." Everyone knows the digital circus has hit such huge levels of popularity that showing up on Netflix was just a matter of time. One post about this event even confirmed that episodes would air on Netflix before episode 9 drops. Of course, this can be explained by the fact that no one's really sure if TADC will get a second season or end with season 1. Still, as an interesting bit, it deserves a mention here. After reviewing all these posts, it's time to dive into my own thoughts on whether the Amazing Digital Circus will continue or wrap up after season 1. The Amazing Digital Circus is undeniably a top contender in indie animation right now. No debate there. But as they say, you should always bow out at your peak, and even the best things are best in moderation. The show made such a bold debut that it'd be a shame for it to fizzle out later on. And knowing Gooseworx already has all the details and events of upcoming episodes mapped out hints that the entire concept was likely planned as a single season arc. Gooseworx's confidence about this also makes it seem more likely that after the first season, we may not see more of the digital circus, with episode 9 serving as the perfect finale. Though this show has become a huge part of my life, with me constantly staying up to date on every new detail to share with you, I'd actually be content with it ending this way. It'd be better than dragging it out and risking it becoming repetitive or empty. Sure, they could release 5 seasons, adding new characters and settings, but that wouldn't be the show Gooseworx initially envisioned when the Amazing Digital Circus was born. So let's wait for episode 9, and once it's out, we can really assess whether there's room for more, or if the story has truly come to a close. But I'm standing firm on my belief that the digital circus should exit gracefully, and I genuinely hope it won't be stretched out just for the sake of it. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Drop a comment, and I'll make sure to respond to the most interesting ones. Let's dive into what we might see in the final episode of the Amazing Digital Circus's first season. Pomni's the character that's really become the heart of the digital circus, and of course the main protagonist too.
What's going on? I put on some weird headset and now I'm here. Who are you people? Why can't I take it off? Oh, okay, now I get it! This is a dream, and I should just play along until I wake up, right?
Even though a new character will take the spotlight as the main character, Up until episode 6, the primary focus and storyline will still revolve around Pomni. We can see her state of mind improving with each episode.
I know Kane sometimes likes to reuse NPCs.
Got everything ready.
Hey, you at least want to join us for Kaufmo's funeral?
So what was it like being stuck with the nutcase?
It wasn't that bad, actually.
So, by the time episode 9 drops, Pomni's mental state might end up looking a lot like the Regatha we know. Happy and full of life.
What did any of that mean?
Oh, that's just one of Kane's little adventures. They're just something fun to do to, prevent us from going insane. Oh, and don't worry about the whole abandoning me for the exit thing. It's perfectly understandable what you were going through at the time, and there's no hard feelings. You're all good. Oh, this place is spooky. I wonder how hard Kane's gonna go with the scare factor.
But there's always a catch. And for Pomni, that bitter reminder is the pilot episode, especially that mysterious door that seems like it'll haunt her right up to the end of episode 9, even if we don't see it directly. The pilot episode also clued us in on how people actually end up in the digital circus, but even more important, it hinted that there's a way out. So, in theory, each character could make it back to their real lives. But for everyone except Pomni, that idea seems to have faded into the background. I also want to show you an interesting part of the pilot episode that blew everyone's minds a year ago. I'm curious if you'll notice anything strange in this scene.
I didn't mean to leave you behind like that. Just look at my hand. I didn't know what to do.
It's okay. What you need to do right now is find Kane. He'll be able to fix me up and take care of Kaufmo.
Okay.
Of course I'm talking about that moment when Pomni's glitching hand suddenly stopped as soon as Kane was mentioned, as the only one able to reverse the abstraction process. This sparked loads of theories suggesting that Pomni might actually be one of the administrators, or even the creator, of the digital circus. Though we haven't confirmed or debunked this theory yet, just knowing that the circus has an exit is thrilling. I'm almost 100% sure that this will come into play in episode 9, and we might even see most of the characters leave the circus tent for good. That could be the perfect end to their amazing adventures that we've been so excited to follow.
What's all this stuff?
Pomni, are you okay? Well, what happened?
Yeah, I'm fine. I made a new friend.
Boss, where have you been? We got fudged.
You don't want to know. Good to see you, lads.
Don't worry, Gangle, I'll get it for you!
My name is Baron Theodore Mildenhall. Hunting has been a hobby of mine for as long as I can remember, although one could say it eventually became more of an obsession. The creature you see before you is one I've been pursuing for years.
I didn't say almost all would leave the digital circus by accident. Of course, Pomni, Regatha, Jax, Zubul, and Gangle will definitely want out. But when it comes to Kinger, I have serious doubts. He's no longer the young guy he was in his 20s. He's already 48, and, on top of that, he's the most deeply scarred character among them.
Right after my wife had abstracted. I don't recall the exact string of events, but we both ended up in the fort together.
I doubt he'd want to change anything, honestly. The digital circus has become something familiar and comfortable for him, and stepping back into the real world, a place undoubtedly scarier than the circus, would be a challenge he's probably not prepared for, especially given his mental state.
Ah! Oh! Gangle, you startled me.
Two most mentally stable and capable characters to be paired together.
Well, that wraps up our discussion on this topic, and let's end this video on a positive note. Don't forget to subscribe and drop a comment. I think a lot of people have noticed this strange shot that shows us some blurred content.
Take a look!
What the f am I looking at?
The consequences of our actions!
But why are Gooseworx and Glitch so open about it? Actually, this conflict started a long time ago. Watch this video to the end to understand what really happened and what the future holds. And today we are going to talk not only about what was shown in the trailer, but also about many other things that somehow affect our creators. Gooseworx first gained popularity in late 2019 after her Little Runmo project, and after the release of Digital Circus's pilot episode, the whole world was talking about this very talented animator. It all started with a post by a Twitter user with the nickname Terror Mask who wrote, "So apparently this joke conversation from years ago is now being used by Digital Circus haters and spineless idiots from 4chan for the hate that started after the release of the TADC pilot. If you see someone bringing this up, don't take them seriously and report them." Also attached to the post was an image showing that in the distant 2021, a user wrote, "Back to your drilling fetish, I see," to which Gooseworx replied, "You can't prove it's a fetish," followed by an image of various characters enjoying having their heads drilled. I'm pretty sure Gooseworx hadn't even brought up this conversation, which objectively makes no sense, until recently. But in response to Terror Mask's post, Gooseworx said it was funny because it was. It's not surprising that such arguments appear on sites like 4chan, but what is surprising is that nowadays such trivial things like pictures get too much attention. Maybe it was, or still is, some kind of fetish, and what's the big deal? So I think this post is one of the most senseless judgments I've seen in years, except that in recent years, the tendency to post everything about oneself on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, or other platforms has become more and more massive and open, and therefore something like this should not be taken too seriously. Like I said, it all started with a thread on 4chan, but then this movement started to gain popularity on other platforms as well. In the end, all this led to the fact that was organized a live broadcast GlitchX 2023, on which were gathered all the creators of projects, to which is directly related to the studio Glitch. On this broadcast in the main trained further plans and events, but at some point some users began to spam massively unpleasant information. Fortunately, YouTube's automatic content detection worked perfectly and was able to fix most of the problems, but instead of improving the situation, it made it worse. Users became even more enthusiastic about sharing all this garbage on social networks and other platforms. As I said after 4chan, this whole process started on other platforms. And one example is this random meme about working out. I don't understand what the perpetrators are trying to achieve. Maybe they want to show how different they are from Gooseworx. Okay, if you don't like the amazing Digital Circus, that's perfectly normal. But I think it's better to spend your time doing something productive than sitting around trying to insult someone who has achieved great things. All this bullying and harassment just makes me feel Spanish shame. But Gooseworx acted very wisely in this situation by not responding to this harassment in any way and just pretending that nothing was going on. After all, if she started to respond to her abusers, it would only provoke them to harass Gooseworx even more. Unfortunately, this is the reality of the modern internet. There has also been some controversy over Gooseworx's very strange Gooseworx account, but don't be fooled into thinking it's something bigger than it is. It's just a private Gooseworx account that came under scrutiny after this whole situation. To be honest, I'm very upset by the behavior of some of the viewers. And since we're about to see a new episode of the Digital Circus, I'm afraid there will be more and more of these nasty posts. And now let's get to the next part of our video. And in it we'll talk about a phenomenon that could jeopardize the continuation of our favorite show about the strange yet amazing Digital Circus, content farm channels. I think you've all heard of them at least once in your life. And as the Digital Circus began to grow in popularity, their numbers began to grow more and more. Initially, Gooseworx didn't talk about it directly, but recently we saw that it is really concerned about this problem. It all started with one of these channels that makes as many videos as possible in order to make as much money as possible. Gooseworx originally said, "You guys keep sending me the worst content farm slop imaginable," and you're like, what are your thoughts on this? I like genuine fan content, but it's just getting really hard to find in the endless sea of soulless trash. After that, however, there was some calm and no further statements from Gooseworx on the subject. But it went on like that until December 29th. And just before the new year, a post was published in which Gooseworx seriously touched on this topic. I don't mean to be a buzzkill, but don't you guys think drawing or obsessing over this character is just giving these content farm channels what they want? Like, I'd be fine with it if it came from a fan and not a content farm video, but it very much comes from a content farm video. That's exactly what Gooseworx wrote on her Twitter, and even so, there is some resentment around the situation. Of course, content farm channels have a negative impact on the activities of those who are really trying hard to produce quality and original content, and the most striking example of such farms is the Hornstromp network of channels that have been in the business for several years, trying to squeeze maximum profit out of every new popular show or game. It seems to me that Gooseworx is having a hard time with these channels taking advantage of her work, and there is nothing she can do about it. One user responded that people are just having fun this way, but Goose responded by saying that if it was fan work, there would be no problems or issues. The obvious implication is that these channels are not stamping content for the sake of ideas but for money, and they are hardly fans either. And just a couple of hours later, Gooseworx published a mock mini-comic which is designed to illustrate the whole situation. In the first scene, a fan says, "Goose, Please do something about these content farm channels. They're ruining the show. And you can see that Goose doesn't react to this and just stands there silently, but then in the second image she replies, because it originates from a content farm video. I'd prefer if people made their own design or latched onto something made by an actual fan, and shows that very image. Well, in the third image, we see a reference to a previous post where the user said that these people are just having fun. Judging by her tweets, she received some criticism from fans of the Digital Circus, and someone suggested she just file a complaint against the content farm channels. But apparently most people don't understand how some YouTube processes work, and that's exactly what Gooseworx pointed out in her next post, saying, "What do you want me to do about it? The amazing Digital Circus isn't on my channel, so I can't copyright strike them, and even if could, isn't there an unspoken rule about copyright striking videos you don't like? Like, I'm pretty sure that's always been frowned upon." And that's actually a very smart stance because on YouTube, a lot of people help each other, but you always have to realize where the line ends that you can't cross. I think that both Gooseworx and the Glitch channel team have often received links to all these videos from the user, and in this case, it's clear that her nervous system couldn't take it, and she decided to respond once and for all, both to those who make such content and those who send it. Also, we know that Jax is her favorite, and many fans and not only started to redraw him just from the images of those channels that are content farms. And when she also expressed her displeasure on this topic, she started receiving various messages like this in response. Also, when Goose wrote that she had not been feeling well lately, she was immediately answered that during her absence there had been a huge number of copycats on TikTok and other platforms. I think the best thing to do in this situation is to just ignore such content and not publicize it to the world so that it continues to exist in its bubble. Copycats. As I said earlier, the amazing Digital Circus has gained huge popularity, and with it, the popularity of Gooseworx and Michael Kovac has also started to skyrocket. And it was expected that they will have imitators who will impersonate famous personalities in order to deceive or profit. And if earlier our main characters of this story were silent, then recently they began to speak out more and more on this topic. And the first to start this case was Michael Kovac, who published a post in Twitter with a complaint to the support service, not understanding why this strange account is still not banned. This discontent was caused by the fact that this wannabe publishes not very pleasant content, and such posts some users may take seriously and think that Michael wrote them. And he also wrote, "Impersonation aside, this account is consistently harassing users, making racist remarks, and even posted an image of an address previously associated with me. I've reported them multiple times, yet you've been completely useless." And after that, Gooseworx also added, "Twitter's made it basically impossible to report impersonators. I spent around 2 hours going through all the hoops and was met with this at the end, and on top of that attached a picture that perfectly demonstrates the flawed identification system among Twitter's support team." And Goose also showed some of the accounts that are impersonating her. And against this background, she published a post in which she expressed all her discontent. "I really didn't want to do this. I hate engaging with these type of things or sieving them attention, but considering hit a brick wall through support, I want you all to report Gooseworx 7247 for impersonation. They're interacting with young fans, and I'm not okay with that." And the problem with these accounts is not their existence, but their actions. If they had just created a copycat Gooseworx account, then there would be no problem. The main reason is the intentions of these people because first they mislead everyone, and then they start manipulating the audience or promoting content they see fit. It's just a dirty business that deserves only condemnation. But thankfully, this copycat Gooseworx account has been permanently deleted, and our original Goose was able to get justice. I hope Twitter starts regulating situations like this more seriously soon. And by the way, around the same time there was an unpleasant situation with Michael Kovac. A user posted a first-person video with the caption that Kovac was dying. In response, he immediately received a message from Michael Kovac himself where he said, "I would appreciate it if you would stop making posts about myself, Elsie, or other voice actors dying. None of us enjoy it. Please, don't harass the OP. I'm assuming they are young and don't understand that it's uncomfortable." To which one user said, "Didn't you say you would be more careful about censoring users and such? Not trying to dig on you or anything. Just saying." And Michael Kovac apparently got tired of arguing and just said that he had already answered everything he wanted to. And after that, Michael created a separate thread where he finally voiced his position and said, "Hi, if I respond to a tweet politely asking someone to stop doing something, I do not want to see people go after them. I've already said my piece. Do not speak for me and overwhelm the original poster. Thanks." Then one user again pointed out Michael's behavior and the response was, "I am so used to replies being suppressed and nobody seeing them. I didn't expect people to even notice. Trying my best to make them stop. feel bad for the OP and don't believe they deserve it. I honestly don't even understand why Michael Kovac paid attention to this post because it would have been much better to just ignore it. Unfortunately, as I've said before, this is the rule of the internet. The more attention and emphasis on something on the part of the protagonist of the discussion, the more unpleasant things will be addressed to him. And it is best not to publicize such situations and calmly report to the support team, hoping that they will be able to fix the problem in time. Because of these events, it's time to talk about the future of the digital circus. We have only two options. Gooseworx can accept the hate and keep doing what they do, realizing that the more digital circuses there are, the more people like them there will be. Or Goose can be offended by the audience and deliberately delay the release of new episodes or cancel this amazing digital show altogether. One of the scenes in episode 4 unveiled a chilling secret about the amazing digital circus. The moment with a cheerful Gangle, abruptly cut off by the truck scene, fully convinced us that the digital circus is a kind of game, or perhaps a parallel reality, where people end up after their death, with their consciousness transferred into a virtual space. But what does this have to do with the one and only Albert Spudsy? Let's break it all down. Among all the characters in the circus, only one was alive at the time of their teleportation into the amazing digital circus. Who do you think it could be? Share your theories in the comments. Each adventure we've seen reflects the real-life experiences of the character who stars in that episode. For example, episode 3 mirrored Kinger's hobbies and interests, while episode 4 completely captured Gangle's life story.
And you can be the shift manager.
You did not just make that today's adventure.
I think I might be able to give it a swing. Being a shift manager was my job at one point.
Gangle herself confirmed this, making the truck scene a memory from her real life. Remember how happy she was before the accident, and immediately after, we see her completely devastated. Gangle managed to suppress this memory, but Kane couldn't let it go and decided to use this haunting moment from her past. This suggests that all the characters are fully aware they're dead, which explains why they seem unbothered by their existence in the digital circus. After all, they've essentially been granted immortality. Meanwhile, Pomni is left in the dark, unable to comprehend the full reality of her situation.
Well, how do I, leave?
Well, don't freak out about it or anything, but, we don't exactly...
You can't.
What? Wait! Was that an exit door I saw out there? Is that a way to leave?
As you may have guessed, Pomni is the only one who entered the digital circus while still alive. But beyond the fact that the rest of the characters are deceased, more on the details of their deaths later, all of them are interconnected. In one of her posts, Gooseworx revealed that episode 4 would be very personal, meaning we can safely assume it holds much deeper secrets compared to the other episodes. By now, it's clear that Gangle was a shift manager in the real world, as episode 4 directly showed us this part of her past.
Well, I guess I should get into manager mode and get us all kicked off. And with that out of the way, let's get to work, guys!
And her death occurred shortly after the encounter with the truck. This much is clear, but few remember episode 2 and the similar truck we saw there, one driven by Gangle. More importantly, though, is who was sitting next to her. None other than the chaotic Jax. Let me clarify right away. Nearly all the characters work together in a fast food restaurant, and I'll prove this to you shortly. Episode 4, in this sense, can be considered the backstory for all the characters. In real life, Jax was someone Gangle couldn't stand, and she did everything she could to make his life miserable. This eventually pushed things to the breaking point, and on that fateful day, depicted in episode 4, it all escalated to a level Jax could no longer endure. And now we recall the truck from episode 2, the fact that Jax was supposed to be the one driving it, and that Jax has a driver's license, combined with the truck that ended Gangle's life. This leads us to the conclusion that Jax is, in fact, the one responsible for Gangle's death. He was behind the wheel of that same truck on the road near the fast food restaurant. This scene reflects Jax's complete despair, but when you think about it, it could also hint at his own demise. After colliding with Gangle, Jax lost control of the truck and likely crashed into something. A strong impact with the steering wheel might have led to his death. Interestingly, something like this was hinted at in episode 2. I'm sure many have noticed the rather intriguing relationship between Jax and Regatha.
I want to see what your funny cartoon body does.
Hey, take it easy.
Oh, take it easy. That's you.
Do you think pairing them up together is a good idea?
Of course I do.
Oh, you know how men are. Always having the silliest priorities.
Don't I know it?
The same dynamic can be observed between Jax and Zooble.
All left behind.
Yeah, what are you talking about?
Ooh, a new AI. You don't want to mess with the new AI, Zuby?
Yeah, no.
And Zooble turned straight.
My limbs straighten up and f*** off.
What about you?
He refuses to show us because he's a coward. The only thing holding Kane back is the fact that he likes us. I wouldn't push it.
That's rich coming from you.
Let's recall Gangle's words about Regatha.
Oh, Regatha. I love her, but after a while it gets kinda hard to tell how genuine she's actually being.
And realize that she knows far more about her than Pomni does. Episode 4 also gave us insight into Regatha's not-so-helpful habit, disguised humorously as dumb sauce. But considering the mannequin's level of dependency, it's crystal clear what the creators were really implying. Taking into account how Regatha was in the real world and Jax's character traits, it's not too far-fetched to assume that there could have been some romantic tension or even a relationship between them. But now, let's shift our focus to Zooble, as these three characters are deeply intertwined. Remember the end of their work shift?
You know, when Regatha gets off, I feel like she might need a designated driver.
Why are you asking me? I'm closing tonight.
Oh, no, I meant I'd drive her home.
Oh. I think she gets off in an hour?
Okay, I can stick around until then.
Zooble wanted to take Regatha home herself, but seeing the state Regatha was in, it became clear that even if they made it to Zooble's car, they weren't going anywhere. It's highly likely that Zooble realized she couldn't manage driving while also looking after Regatha. Then, they spotted Jax in the parking lot. The same Jax who, as we know, hadn't left for home yet. Zooble asked Jax to drive them home while she kept an eye on Regatha, but somehow Jax managed to transfer them into the infamous truck. What followed next is the tragic series of events we've pieced together. Episode 2 provides key clues, especially with what appears to be Regatha's potential death. After the crash, Regatha may have survived initially, but shards of the windshield likely pierced her body, with one fatal piece striking her heart. As for Zooble, her mismatched body parts in the digital circus suggest she suffered the most devastating injuries, practically being put back together after the accident. This aligns perfectly with the theory that the digital circus represents life after death. The lack of pain among the characters makes sense. After all, how can you feel pain if you're already dead? Lastly, the final piece of the puzzle is Kinger. Being the last to die in the real world, he seems to possess a unique ability that sets him apart.
Just leave it to me. I can handle this. Well,
aside from his excellent shooting skills and the catastrophic mistake that led to his wife Queenie's death, Kinger was a man consumed by obsession. His tragic fate lingered even after his death, subtly reflected in the final scene of Episode 4. We see Kane handing out scores after the adventure, and on the chalkboard, there's an image of Kinger participating in a rodeo. This moment likely references an actual event from his life, rodeo being the passion that helped him cope with the devastating incident involving Queenie. Now let's circle back to Episode 2. In the scene with Regatha, we're shown Kinger with knives piercing his head. This could very well be a callback to his rodeo days. What if, during one fateful ride, Kinger lost control and the bull gored his head with its horns? This theory not only aligns with his strange appearance in the digital circus, but also explains his erratic behavior, which could be a mix of lingering trauma and the weight of his personal tragedy. And lastly, let's figure out who's behind the creation of this whole space. CNA has been one of the biggest mysteries of the amazing digital circus for a year now, and people have been linking it to Cain and Abel for a while, but I'm not going to dive into religion here. I've got a more interesting and believable theory. It's pretty clear by now that CNA refers to the creators of the digital circus, and if we know that C stands for Cain, just a week ago we found out the second name. Albert Spudsy, yep, the guy who owns the fast food chain Spudsy's, is the one who represents the A. The very first teaser for the amazing digital circus basically proves that Kane was once a human, someone who got moved into this virtual world, which stripped him of his human form and turned him into an NPC. That confirms Kane is one of the creators of TADC. And now that we know the second part of the mystery is Albert Spudsy, it's pretty likely that he's the second creator. This is something Gooseworx hinted at in episode 4. As for Pomni, she could have been his daughter or someone he experimented on to see what would happen to a living person who got stuck in this otherworldly space. And finally, I gotta ask, why did Ragatha start acting all friendly when she was totally different in real life? Maybe it's because she realizes that the only way she can earn back some respect is by changing,